All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, welcome in. I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to get right into this. Zohran Mamdani, you know, the Democratic Socialist. Anybody heard of this guy? The Democratic Socialist is going to be probably the next mayor of New York. How do we get to this point? You know, how do we get here? You know, from Giuliani to Bloomberg to de Blasio. How do we get to a Muslim Democratic Socialist going to be in charge of America's biggest city? I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. But I mean, if you think about it, he really doesn't have any competition, because we know that Adams isn't running again because of all the stuff that happened with him, you know, him being charged with, you know, federal crimes and, you know, being accused of accepting money from a Turkish diplomat. And Cuomo, we know all his backstory. You know, pretty much during COVID, he took all these sick people that had positive COVID analysis and took them out of the hospitals to free up some hospital beds and shoved them into nursing homes with all the old people. And that caused a huge controversy. And then he was underreporting COVID numbers by like 50% because he was afraid that he would be, you know, charged with some crimes by the Trump administration. It was crazy, all the stuff that Cuomo was going on, not to mention all the sexual harassment stuff. So honestly, now that you have Mamdani in here, it's, who's his competition? All the competition that he has some type of big scandal. And I mean, Silwa, I mean, he's pretty much unheard of unless you're in New York, you know, but he's a Republican, but he doesn't really fit the Republican narrative because he supports gay marriage and he's very open with stuff like that. So he's got, you know, a little dirt on him too. So Mamdani is pretty much going to moonwalk into being the next mayor of New York. And it's very concerning, because Mamdani has said that he's going to target rich white neighborhoods. That's what he said. He's going to target rich white neighborhoods in New York. He says cops are anti-gay, says cops are racist in New York. And that's crazy because, you know, I thought cops put their lives on the line every single day for everybody. So how are you going to run the city when you say cops are anti-gay, cops are racist? You then can't even condemn the phrase globalized intifada, which, by the way, New York has the highest population of Jewish people in the city. Okay, so you would sit there and say, hey, you know what? If we have all these Jewish people in New York, wouldn't you want a mayor that actually looks out for you and doesn't be on the street chanting Free Palestine? Which, by the way, it doesn't make any sense. How do you sit there and chant Free Palestine, but then have the nerve to sit there and say you're going to fight for every New Yorker, even a Jewish one? That doesn't make any sense, because we know the Free Palestine chant is just that. It is just a violent chant to kind of get rid of the Israeli people. That's literally what globalized intifada means, because we've seen the first and second intifadas, and the globalized intifada is pretty much a violent Palestinian chant uprising against the Jewish people in Israel. That's what it is. It's literally a phrase that's going to say, we are going to overtake you by violence, people of Israel. That's what it is. And he can't condemn the phrase. It's curious that he's playing both sides. But again, you can't be saying Free Palestine and then have the nerve to say we're going to be fighting for everybody, including the Jewish people of New York. So I'm going to, before we get to this debate, I'm actually going to show you a couple clips of him being asked layup questions, okay? Easy layup questions. Do you condemn the phrase? You know, and then he backtracks and does, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here.
I want to ask you about an issue that has divided some New Yorkers in recent weeks. You were recently asked about the term globalize the intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief.
I didn't hear a yes or no, which was a simple yes or no. Do you condemn this? But we'll let him talk.
That freedom and justice and safety are things that, to have meaning, have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C.
Again, simple, easy layup question. Do you condemn the phrase? Well, I've heard from New Yorkers, and that's not language that I would use. It's a yes or no question, and this is exactly the person that he is. Okay. He doesn't like Jewish people. Let's just get that out in the open. He doesn't like Jewish people. He understands that he has the highest Jewish population in his city that he's going to be mayor of. But he's on the side of Palestine. He doesn't recognize the state of Israel. He doesn't condemn the phrase globalized intifada. It's all evident right here. He does not support Israel or Jewish people, period. This is why he cannot condemn the phrase, because if he condemns the phrase, then all the Muslim people who are supporting him would then say, wait, hold on. Whoa. You're supposed to be on our side. So that's why he's tiptoeing his way around. Going back to his economic policy, when he's going to target rich people, I just want you to hear his explanation.
There's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now.
A description of what we see right now, which is like, hey, look, white people, if you're in a nice area, you make a lot of money, we're coming after you. Which, wouldn't you say that's the American dream, is to make a lot of money, have a nice house, have nice things, give back to the community and all these such things. And then you have a person who's going to say, nope, we're going to target rich white people. That's literally his proposal.
Cite and realize there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see.
A description of what we see. How is this a policy? How is this not being talked about? I'm literally going after people because of the color of their skin. That is the most racist thing. But we know the Democratic Party allows racism to go on. Could you imagine if a white Republican said, I'm going to target black people? Imagine. But this is, whatever reason, is allowed in the Democratic Party. It's literally in his policy. We are going to target rich white people. How does that make any sense? And Democrats are like cheering him on. Yeah, good job, Mamdani. That's great. Take all the rich white people's money. How does that make any sense? If you are living in New York, how could you vote for this man? Even if you're a Democrat, Democrats have money. This is going to affect Democrats who make over $1 million in New York too. Are they okay with that? But you know what? We're going to get into this when he was actually going into some debates. But right before the debates, he had to sit down with Martha McCallum on Fox News, which I'm actually very surprised of, kind of going to the lion's den. And obviously Fox News doesn't agree with any of his policies. So I kind of give him credit for actually sitting down and, going into the Fox News where it's going to be fiery. They're going to ask you a lot of questions that you might not get in CNN and MSNBC and ABC and all these softball journalist questions. But Martha McCallum didn't hold back, and she's asking him point blank, you said you're going to go after Netanyahu. Do you condemn the phrase and all this? So let's see what Martha McCallum on Fox News had to say.
Any of the hostages who died. Zohran Mamdani is leading the race for mayor in New York City, the biggest city in the country and the capitalist center of the world. The 33-year-old is proposing free childcare, free buses, freezing rent, and city-run grocery stores. He has claimed that we should not really have billionaires in this city, and he has vowed to make New York the strongest sanctuary city in the country. His views on hot topics like the NYPD and Israel have been a constant source of controversy, but he is ahead by 13 points right now in this race. I sat down with him on the eve of tomorrow night's big mayoral debate in New York City. Here's part one of our exclusive interview. Thank you very much for being here. Candidate for mayor of New York City, you're up by 13 points. It looks like you've got the wind at your back. You've got a big debate coming up tomorrow night with the other candidates, Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Silwa. Obviously, New York City policy is front and center, but I would imagine that some of the big headlines recently are going to come up tomorrow night as well. So I want to get to all the policy issues in New York, but I wanted to ask you this first. If you are asked tomorrow night, if you give credit to President Trump for the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and the return of the 20 living hostages, would you raise your hand?
You know, first I want to say it's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you for having me. And it's an honor to have this opportunity to speak to so many New Yorkers and Americans across the country. And when it comes to the ceasefire, I am thankful and I have hope that it will actually endure and that it will be lasting. And I continue to have concerns because I've seen reports still, just this in the last few days, that 5 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli military. And that's what gives me pause about issuing.
He hates Trump and Israel so much. It's like bleeding all over his face. We have known that since the ceasefire, Hamas has literally killed Palestinians, public executions. Hamas has literally said, as soon as Israel started pulling their troops back, Hamas has started coming in, started killing Palestinians who, let's just say, were on the side of Israel or didn't support Hamas. Public executions. And you know what he has the nerve to say? Well, you know, I saw some Israeli people like, what? It was all over the news. Palestinians were being killed in the middle of the street by Hamas. And that's what you have the nerve to say about Israel?
Any kind of praise or celebration at a moment when it is still so in its infancy. And what I will tell you is that in that same moment, it is also one that requires a focus on ensuring that that hope, that belief in a better future is one that is emblematic in our policies right here in New York City as well. And that's what we're hoping to lead with.
So would you give President Trump credit or not, to any extent? Credit or not?
I think it's too early to do so.
Too early to say.
But if it proves to be something that is lasting, something that is durable, then I think that that's where you give credit.
So you've denounced Israel and the United States for the response to the slaughter on October the 7th. In fact, at times you've called it a lasting stain, the response, and at times you have left October 7th out of your statements completely around this issue. Right now, you just talked about Israelis killing.
What she means by that is that he has repeatedly not even acknowledged October 7th. Didn't even acknowledge that that's the reason why this whole conflict started. The reason is because he always talks about Israel's going overboard. Israel, Netanyahu was a war criminal. They're committing genocide and blah, blah, blah. But they never talk about October 7th. So that's what she's talking about. You never reference October 7th. You never recognize Hamas starting this when they killed over 1,200 people and took 250 people hostage. You never reference that. Why is it always Israel you reference?
And Palestinians, but Hamas is killing Palestinians within Gaza. And they have not returned the bodies that they promised to return, including 2 Americans, Itai Chen and Omar Nutra, whose families we have interviewed over these months. So what is your response to what Hamas is doing now?
I think those are bodies and remains that should absolutely be returned. And I think that I have no issue with critiquing Hamas or the Israeli government, because my critiques all come from a place of universal human rights. And my focus, however, is right here in New York City and transforming the most expensive city in America into one that's affordable for each and every New Yorker.
But, okay, I want to get to that, absolutely. But do you believe that Hamas should lay down their weapons and leave the leadership in Gaza?
I believe that any future here in New York City is one that we have to make.
Can't even admit that Hamas should lay down their arms. Asked point blank. Cannot even admit it. Doesn't want Hamas. He hates Israel so much. Hamas are a terrorist organization that is funded by Iran that are killing Israelis 24/7. Now we have a ceasefire that Donald Trump executed. Israeli starts pulling back their forces. Hamas then comes over more and starts killing Palestinians. And yet he says, you know, we don't know about Hamas laying down their arms. It's too early for me to say. Donald Trump doesn't get any credit for this. It's too early. What I'm seeing on the news right now is the IDF killing Palestinians. So I'm so concerned. This guy hates Israel. Why aren't the people of New York not realizing this? He hates Trump and he hates Israel. That is why he's in the streets chanting free Palestine. That is why he cannot condemn the phrase globalized intifada. That's why when asked by Martha, do you think Hamas should lay down their arms, which anybody in America should say, yes, 100%. He says, nah, you know, it's not for me to decide. I don't know.
Make sure that's affordable for all. And as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, that we have to ensure that there is peace. And that is the future that we have to fight for.
But you won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond.
Doesn't have opinions, guys. There you go. Doesn't have opinions. A big terrorist organization. He doesn't have opinions about it. No, he can't be bothered by it. Doesn't have opinions about it. It's very concerning with this guy. Very, very, very concerning. I mean, he's telling you exactly who he is. You know, he's not hiding it. He loves Hamas. He loves Palestine. He clearly, when asked, do you condemn these phrases? Do you think Hamas should lay down their arms? I don't have an opinion about it. But you have an opinion about Benjamin Netanyahu. Here's your opinion about Netanyahu.
On the question of justice and safety and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas, that applies to the Israeli military, applies to anyone you could ask me about.
Okay. One last thought on that. You have said that you would arrest Netanyahu if he came to the United States. You've been very outspoken in your criticism of him. Do you stand by that? You would arrest him if he came here, if you were mayor?
I've said that this is a city that believes in international law, and this is a city that wants to uplift and uphold those beliefs. The Prime Minister...
The United States doesn't stand by the International Criminal Court.
It hasn't signed the treaty for the International Criminal Court.
No, they don't. They don't recognize the ICC, period, whatsoever. They do not recognize the ICC whatsoever. So I don't even know why he's even talking about them. But we're going to actually go to debate now. And, you know, there was a lot of tense exchanges, which I'm actually going to say Mamdani had a couple good punchlines for Cuomo, because obviously Silva's the odd man out. Nobody really cares about him. He's just, you know, odd man out. But I guess it's just like, hey, you know, come to debate. No one's going to vote for you, but just come to debate anyway, whatever. Obviously, we know it's between Mamdani and Cuomo. Now, Cuomo gave him some good shots too, but Mamdani, you know, came back. But I will say Mamdani is not a pushover. You know what I mean? So let's just hear what Mamdani had to say in
tried
this
to
debate.
punch each other's lights out. The two men went after each other time and time again, which is clearly frustrating for Curtis Silwa.
There's high levels of testosterone in this room.
It was the understatement of the night, and it happened barely 13 minutes into a 2-hour debate. Curtis Silwa also experiencing the frustration of being the forgotten man. Cuomo and Mamdani just wanted to eviscerate each other.
This is no job for on-the-job training. And if you look at the failed mayors, they're ones that had no management experience. Don't do it again.
I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city.
He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. You could have a
Okay, that was a
hurricane, you God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic.
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes?
Cuomo, that was a line. Mamdani, I don't like you whatsoever, but Cuomo, that was a really good line from him.
The wide-ranging debate dealt with public safety, affordability, free buses, the need for more housing, and the ability to stand up to Donald Trump. But time and time again, it seemed to go back to anti-Semitism and whether Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state.
The assemblyman still won't say he believes that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. He is a divisive personality.
I've said time and again that I recognize Israel's right to exist. I've said that I will not recognize any states. I said that I will not
as a Jewish state.
If I would be allowed to finish, that I would not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race or religion.
Jews are under attack now more than ever before. And I don't believe either of you have the capabilities of protecting them with increased anti-Semitism.
I don't think in any way the assemblyman is representative of the Muslim community. Many of his positions don't even follow the Muslim faith.
You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. It's been an hour.
But hold on, though. What do we care about that? Since when do we have to step foot into a mosque to be a mayor of New York City? This is America. When do we care about that? You mean to tell me I have to step foot in a mosque and I have to listen to what they have to say and do all this stuff to be the next mayor? I have to step foot in a mosque. When do we start doing that? When do we start judging our ability to become a mayor in an American city of how many times we visit mosques? Since when? You see how everything is starting to turn now? Do you see how everything is starting to turn now when it comes to the Muslims coming in there? And you see Michigan's destroyed. You see Minneapolis is destroyed because you have Ilhan Omar over there and you have Omar Fattah. And now New York is going to be destroyed. Zohran Mamdani, period, end of story, does not like Jewish people. He has already stated that he does not condemn the phrase globalized intifada. He said he does not have an opinion if Hamas should lay down their arms. What more do you need from a person that when asked point blank, an easy layup question, do you think terrorists should lay down their arms right now? I don't really have an opinion about that. But when asked about Benjamin Netanyahu, you say, oh, I'm going to arrest him. Wait, hold on. So Hamas, who literally is our terrorist organization funded by Iran, you say, yeah, I don't really have an opinion if they should lay down their arms. But Benjamin Netanyahu, when asked if he visits New York ever, you're saying that you're going to make sure the police chief arrests him? What more do Jewish people need to see? And I'm going to give you this last clip right now. This last clip is literally what I was talking about earlier, how you cannot be saying free Palestine and then say, I support the Jewish people. You can't do it. And Zohran Mamdani is about to get called out from this Palestinian guy. And I'm so glad he got called out by this Palestinian guy, because now America can see this is what the Palestinian movement is all about. They don't want Jewish people to exist. They don't recognize the state of Israel. They want them gone. That is what the Free Palestine chant is. This Palestinian guy is about to call Zohran Mamdani out. Just watch this.
Because people like me are constantly attacked by politicians for standing up for Palestine, and you are constantly defending the right for Israel to exist. My family is in Palestine right now, constantly under attack, and I'm hearing you say free Palestine, but also Israel has the right to exist. Don't be hypocritical. Don't be hypocritical and say free Palestine when you're also defending the right for Israel to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It's not your land to say it has the right to exist.
Exactly. This Palestinian guy called him out and literally said, how dare you chant free Palestine and then say we're going to support Israel? You cannot do it. And that is why the Palestinian people in New York are calling him out. And they're having these press conferences and they're calling Zohran Mamdani out and they're saying, you are a hypocrite. This is what the Palestinian movement is. It's not about living peacefully with the Jewish people in Israel. It's not about, hey, we'll stay over here and you stay over there and we'll commingle and we'll get along. It is not about that. Palestinians want the state of Israel gone. That is what they want. That is what free Palestine means. So this Palestinian is literally saying what all the Palestinians are saying in the back of their mind. We want Israel gone. How dare you sit there and say free Palestine, but then say, oh, we support the people of Israel. I'm telling you, they're fed up. He has to choose. And obviously he's not going to choose because he represents America, okay? And obviously he can't say I'm against the people of Israel, but he has said it without saying it. When you don't condemn the phrase globalized intifada, when you sit there and say, I don't really have an opinion if Hamas should lay down their arms or not, I don't really bother me. I don't know. But then when asked, if Netanyahu comes to New York City, what would you do? And you say, I will get with the police chief and make sure he's arrested. What more do Jewish people need to see? He does not like Israel. Many a times he said he's not going to go visit the state, which is whatever. He does not like Israel. He's not going to represent the people of New York City when it comes to, again, New York has the highest population of Jewish people, period, in that city. They have like 1.8 million or whatever it is, a ton of Jewish people in New York. The highest amount of Jewish people in one city alone is in New York City. And he's going to represent them. When he becomes mayor, which it looks like it's going to happen, he's coasting right now. Cuomo has this big scandal with the sexual harassment and all this other stuff and, clearing the hospital beds and putting all the COVID people with the nursing home. It's a mess right now. So he's going to win. And there's a part of me that says the people of New York don't deserve that. Especially when you're talking about which is literally his policy, you're going to target rich white neighborhoods, okay? You're saying you're going to target rich white neighborhoods. That's in your policy. That is literally in your policy. How do you bring skin color around? Imagine if a white conservative said, hey, we're going to target the black communities. Well, how long do you think that person will be able to stand in the race? Never. But it's allowed in the Democratic Party. Racism is allowed in the Democratic Party. And this is what I've been saying. The racist party in America are Democrats. That's what it is. How do you get there and sit there and say, I'm going to target rich white people? How does that make any sense? And again, Democrats are rich too. It doesn't just affect Republicans. What about the Democrats over there that make over $1 million or more? They're going to get hit too. So, this guy right now is he's very scary for New York, because once this guy wins, I don't really know if it's a question of if it's like when he wins, because again, he's leading Cuomo by double-digit points right now, and the election's like 2 weeks away, 14 days away. So I don't think Cuomo is going to be coming back unless like a major scandal comes in right now. But the Democratic Party has made sure that they stand behind Mamdani. You know, he's got the backing of AOC. He's got the backing of Bernie Sanders. He's got the backing of Elizabeth Warren. He's got the backing of Kathy, the governor now. You know, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries still hasn't came to support him, but he's got the backing of so many high prominent Democrats that even if he did have something in his background, it would never come out. Not 14 days before the election. It would never happen. Okay, so he's unfortunately, he's probably going to be the mayor. He's probably going to be the mayor of New York City. And a part of me is like, you know what? I hope he ruins that city because this is what they're going to vote for. And I hope the people that vote for him, you know, get everything that they ask for and the city just gets destroyed and all these rich people, they start fleeing. And guess what? If all the rich people start fleeing, because he's going to say, I'm going to take all the programs, all the things I want to get funded, I'm going to go after rich people. But guess what? If rich people start leaving, who else are you going to go to have pay for your programs? It's got to be the middle class. Where else are you going to tax? If all the rich people leave and you start targeting people with $1 million and all those people that start making over $1 million start going to Tennessee and start going to Florida and start going to Texas and all these other places, well, guess what? That $1 million now becomes $500,000. And guess what? If you make $500,000 a year and the more people that start leaving, well, guess what? I'm going to start taxing you more. That's the only way he can pay for his policies. He has no other plan besides taking from the rich. That's it. And that doesn't work. We've seen this many times. People say, oh, you know, this is going to work. We're just going to take money from you and give it to you. He has recognized that billionaires shouldn't exist. This is what he has said plenty of times. And it's going to be a failed economic policy. But then this is something that New York is voting for, which at the same time, there really isn't anybody else that doesn't have a lot of controversy right now. I mean, Cuomo has controversy. Adams has controversy. That's why he's not running. Silwa, he's a relatively unknown, you know, so like who else? Maybe it feels like another moderate, they would win, but there's nobody right now that's going to overtake Mamdani. And that's the sad part. Mamdani is going to actually become the next mayor of New York. The Democratic Muslim Socialist is going to be the next mayor of New York. And it's going to be sad. He's going to ruin that great city, America's greatest city, America's largest city. He's going to absolutely ruin it. Because when you sit there and say, I'm going to target rich white neighborhoods, which is insane that you're bringing in race, that you're talking about bringing in racist policies. You're going to target white people because you think that, you know, they have a lot of money. So you're going to target them. You're going to not condemn the phrase globalized intifada. You don't have an opinion about if Hamas should lay down their arms whatsoever, but you have an opinion on if Netanyahu were to ever visit the New York City, you would have him arrested because the ICC, the International Criminal Court, recognized it, which obviously the United States doesn't even recognize them, so we don't care what they have to say. But unfortunately, it's sad. It's sad. You know, America is going to lose a great city. It's going to lose one of its best cities, one of the greatest cities in America. Once Mamdani in 14 days becomes the next mayor, that city within 6 months is going to be absolutely ruined. Ruined. And, you know, what do we say? What do we say to the people that once that policy of $1 million or more, I'm going to tax all them. Once that policy of $1 million or more starts going down to 800,000, 700,000, 600,000, 500,000, and it starts affecting more and more people, what are you going to do? You got him. He's the mayor. That's what you voted for, right? If he starts ruining New York City, all of us are just going to be like, that's what you voted for. You know, but it's going to be great to see all these other people leave. I cannot wait to see businesses leave. I mean, once these rich people leave, these businesses shutter their doors and say, hey, look, we can't afford to pay what he's talking about. We're going to have to move. Where are you going to get the money from to pay for your plans, all your programs, all your free buses, your free grocery stores, your free transportation, your free this, your free that? You're literally a young Bernie Sanders. And that's why Bernie Sanders was never elected to become the president. That's why he's always failed, because he talks about policies and programs that will never happen. You cannot have free healthcare and free transportation and free this and free that in America. It will never happen. So it sounds good. You know, he's very popular with the Gen Z people. You know, Gen Z people, which is like the laziest group of people, period. We know this. When they hear free this and free that, They love it. They love that. They think this guy is like their messiah. That Mamdani speaks to them. You know, he speaks to them. You know, I'll tell you right now how sad Gen Z is, right? Gen Z is so sad that we have seen Queers for Palestine people signs in America. Queers for Palestine. We have seen this. Do you think you can be gay in Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan or Palestine or Egypt? Do you think you can be gay there? Do you not know that in Iran, if you are gay and you are a gay man, you can be killed? Do you think they have transgenders in Iraq or Afghanistan? Do you think any of that stuff is allowed or acceptable? Do you know that you would be put to death if you are gay? But yet Gen Z has been their mind manipulated that they're out chanting gays for Palestine. Doesn't even make sense, because if soon as you were in Palestine and you started cheering all that gay trans stuff, you'd be tossed off a building. Literally. So that's how far off Gen Z is, that they are literally chanting people who want them gone. And Mamdani hasn't stopped it. He hasn't put a stop to any of it. He wants to arrest Netanyahu, and he doesn't think that Hamas should lay down their arms. That's not a Democratic or Republican plan. That should be an American plan of, yes, Hamas, who are terrorists, should lay down their arms, period. You shouldn't say, oh, no, I don't know. I don't have an opinion about it. It doesn't really bother me at all. I don't know. Because that's who he is. He's on the side of terrorism. He is on the side. He's not on the side of Jewish people. He's not on the side of Israel. He's on the side of Palestine and their violent chants against the people of Israel. He is showing you who he is. And as disgusting as he is, he's going to be the next mayor. So we'll see. We'll see how New York's going to be. You know, what's the first thing he's going to do? How quickly is he going to start implementing this free stuff? How quickly rich white neighborhoods like in his policy are going to be affected and targeted? You know, man, he's going to ruin that city, and it's going to be sad. But at the same time, we're going to have to sit back and say, hey, look, man, this is what you voted for. You know, this is what it is. And now New York's great city is gone. Gone. I don't know. It's very sad. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out of here.